And I wanted to do a quick live about the variance analysis and the applications of Power BI in regarding variance analysis. I tend to talk about Power BI all the time, but of course we do not want to forget about data analytics as well, because everything we are trying to do here boils down to data analytics. What is your knowledge level at data normalization, cardinality, cross-filter direction, primary and foreign keys, snowflake schemas? We need to master these principles, So I tend to talk about Power BI as a tool, but when you master data analytics, everything will fall into place. Of course, I assume also that you have good working knowledge, in planning and the project control. So I wanted to talk about variance analysis because it is the basic reporting element. It is the basic of everything we are trying to do. In any project, you have the planned work and actual work. And the first intuitive action you want to do is to compare planned versus actual. Where we are versus where we should have been, according to the baseline schedule. So variance analysis is the basic reporting element. We have so many visualizations, we have so many charts types, there are many elements and the sections in any progress report. But if I have to choose one element, it's gonna be variance analysis. Okay. And if you have just joined us, you can say hi in the comments section and tell us where you are from. So introduce yourself, so others can know about you as well. I can see more people are joining us right now. We have Pradeep, hi, and Muhammad as well. Hi, Muhammad. Hi, Smurti, Gerald, Sabir, and Bankul. We have so many people, and more people are joining us right now. So you have just joined us live right now, and we want to talk about variance analysis inside Power BI. I have talked about it a few times in the past, on several occasions through my posts or maybe a webinar that you have attended with me in the past, but we did not have enough time to go deep in the topic. So we will try to cover as much as possible about variance analysis, and specifically inside Power BI, because you can do that, with any tool. You can use Excel if you want, although I am not a big fan of it, because if you have been following me for a while, you know that I am not a big fan of Excel, and I have good reasons for that. I want to make Power BI accessible to everyone. I think it's an amazing tool. It's a free service for the most part, and I believe that all planning engineers, all projects should adopt Power BI. So if you are still, thinking about it, maybe it's better to make a decision, give it a try, and you will thank me later. Okay, it's a new tool. It's normal to feel uncomfortable, and you guess if it's gonna work with you or not, but it works, right? So let's go over. But before we start, we have more people are joining us right now. Rahat, Nishant, Rami, Ali, Kishab, Jacob, Gurav, Ahmed from Algeria, Anand, Gaba from South Africa, Salman, Muhammad, Akash, Ali, Rami from Riyadh, Ijaz from Pakistan. We have Ahmed, Abdul Rahman, and we have also Ahmed and Jackie. Okay, it's good to have you all. Uh, that's one idea about how we can show variance analysis, because there are so many means and the methods of how we can show variance analysis. In one live, I explained progress metrics. If you did not have the opportunity to join the session, you can go to my profile and see my posts until you see the live stream regarding progress metrics. And that's one form of variance analysis. I can see the planned versus actual, but I see the figure itself. That's the purpose of this chart. I want to specifically see how much variance regarding concrete. So there is a purpose here, because I want to quantify the delay. Maybe I want to pay close attention to concrete activity or any major activity that has 3%, because 3% variance in concrete might translate to huge cost variance, for example. So I want to look at the figure. This chart, which we will talk about today, operates in different way. It has a different purpose. Okay. I wanna maybe, I'm not trying really to quantify the variance compared to progress metrics, but I want to have an eagle eye. I want to maybe have qualitative assessment. I want to see the significant delays. So for example, for column serial reinforcement, I can see delays, but the purpose of this chart is to tell me that it's quite minor. It is not too significant. On the other hand, this activity has significant delay. It should not be the only tool that you're gonna use to come up with variance analysis, but typically, and I have said it all the time, typically you go back and forth among different reporting sections to come up with a conclusion. For example, I see, I for some reason, I identify maybe significant delays here. So I can go to progress metrics to see maybe how much exactly it is, or I can maybe go to the cost variance breakdown. Maybe this activity will rank among top 5 contributors regarding cost variance. Maybe I can go to earned value analysis and break it down. So I am a big fan of dynamic reporting, interactive reporting, than static reporting, which 99% of planning engineers do, by the way. Like they fill a template, they have a dashboard template, and present the information to the decision makers. And the reviewer has to make a decision based on what they see. But in real life, if you really want to take your skills to the next level, you have to master dynamic reporting. Because, for example, if you see 10% variance in concrete, you're going to probably want to dig deeper, so you apply some filters about concrete, for example. You have different maybe breakdown formats to show you where the issue, maybe you have shortage of materials, or maybe there is one major activity, critical activity, that you did not start yet. So there are so many possibilities, but dynamic reporting will allow you to do so. Static reporting will not allow you. Maybe you will have the planned versus actual figures for concrete, and that's it. Okay, it's more of qualitative assessment. For progress metrics, it's a more like quantitative assessment. I can see the list of activities for the whole project, summarized, because typically you have thousands of activities in the project. It is not a good practice to report the progress of several thousands. Nobody has enough time to do so, enough energy, and you cannot have meaningful analysis. You want to have smart analysis or presentation about what's going on. So I'm trying to compile all activities related to slab steel reinforcement into something, high level. So that's for the whole project. It's a good place to start from, right? I can see the plant in green, actual in red. I have data date menu, so I can go back to any data date of my choice at any time with a click of a button to see the progress status. Pretty cool, right? So that's one thing as well, because it's one model. But let's look at concrete, because obviously we have progress or some delays related to concrete. So I'm gonna zoom in concrete right now. I can filter everything out and I'm gonna see concrete. You can use a filter or combination of filters. So for example, let's go to, or let's try something else, ground floor, for example. So that's ground floor concrete. If you realize, I have just done it in like maybe less than 10 seconds. I did not import XCR files for the data date that I want to do the analysis for. I did not apply filters. I did not assign the baseline, so it's in seconds you can get the results that you need. Or you can have it floor-wise, for example. So it's the same list of activities that I showed you at the beginning of the tutorial, but floor-wise, for ground floor only. Okay. So you can see full bars here. So it's a different presentation. And, at any time I make a selection, the indicators here will update accordingly, instantly. So if I choose concrete, you're gonna see, the variance percentage for concrete ground floor, because these are the filters that are in place right now. Remaining cost versus earned value cost. It is only a demo. You can show whatever you want, by the way. You can add here 20 different parameters if you want. You can show earned value labor units. You can show budgeted total cost. You can show like whatever you want, and it takes a few seconds to do so. If you try to do that with Primavera Microsoft Project / Excel, it's gonna take a while, and there is a high chance that you will generate inaccurate results. And I'm not talking about the garbage in, garbage out, because of course everything depends on what you feed the model. If you feed the model with inaccurate data, you're gonna have inaccurate output as well. But I assume that the input is correct, but I am talking about the configuration part, the calculations, formulas, setup, all of that. Okay. So let's maybe go back to the overall project. Okay. So you can see the variance right now, planned versus actual. The next logical question would be, is it significant enough? Because not all delays are treated equal, by the way. 5% delay in concrete will be more significant than 70% delay in housekeeping, right? So it is not only about the variance percentage itself. It's about what is behind the variance and what is the impact, right? So if you tell me that we have 5% delay here, it doesn't really give me the whole picture. So what you can do is to hover over any activity, and you will see additional information that will help you in your analysis. Plan the cost, earned value cost, cost variance, remaining cost. You can add, like as many as you want. You can add earned value labor units, budget the total cost. Like you can add whatever you want, but it's only a demo, and I wanted to highlight something specifically, because it's not really a good practice to add more parameters. Like if you have maybe 20 parameters in your model, it is not a good practice to show everything here, by the way, because it means that you don't know what you are doing, by the way. Like you don't have an objective. Everything I do here has an objective. Every chart, every indicator, every format has an objective. Because when you think about it, I could really take everything, like the whole report, in one layout, but it will not make any sense, because sometimes we don't want to look at all the information at once. We have different purposes, different visualizations. So when you perform a variance analysis, will have a different mindset or objective than progress curve, for example. So I will hover over this activity. It is in delay clearly, and I can see the cost variance is 100 grand shortfall. That's quite significant. I know that, you know that, because it's a concrete activity, but sometimes it is not on top of your head, right? You really doubt if the activity is significant enough or not. For other activities, you're gonna see maybe cost variance is $1,000, right? So I will not pay attention to it right now. I'm gonna take a note and come back to visit it later, But that's what I meant by not all delays are treated equal. I can click on this activity, for example, and the variance and SPI will be updated accordingly. This part will be updated. Can you see? I'm not sure if you can see that from your end, but there is a part here that is highlighted. Like it has bright color on both the red and the green areas. It tells you, because I have selected column shutter, so how much the column shutter account from the overall project on both earned value and the remaining cost sides. Again, if you are trying to do everything I have just demonstrated so far inside Excel, it's gonna take a while, because the process is really different if you are doing it the traditional way. You're gonna open your update, schedule update, and you're gonna assign a baseline. You're gonna filter maybe by activity code or WBS. You're gonna show some columns. You're gonna apply some filters. And at the end, you are hoping that you do not refer to the wrong XCR file. Sometimes it happens. It happened to me personally. I just took a copy of the baseline. I have done some what-if scenarios. I changed the baseline. I forgot about it. I assigned it again in my update. So it will, screw everything. And if you try to do the same analysis, maybe for the schedule update that you have done 2 weeks ago, you're going to repeat the same process. You're going to import the schedule update, assign the baseline, apply some filters, and so on. So it's not really effective, And when you add everything up, you are wasting several hours doing some traditional work. There is a risk, that you might generate inaccurate results. So there are many disadvantages, associated with that. And at the end, you have few hours in a day. You cannot do everything. Remember, you still need to write correspondences, initiate meetings with the team and the subcontractors, identify opportunities for extension of time claims. You just have a lot of work, and you have only few hours in a day to do everything. So that's why we need automation, leverage, and systems in place to do the work for us. Okay. So, for example, if I have, for example, let's take column stereo reinforcement, for example, just one example. I have some delays here just to walk you through a practical example. I have the planned versus actual. I can see the cost variance. Yes, it's significant. That's why I wanna dig deeper. I can see how much it accounts, which is quite high, by the way. For one activity to account that much from the overall project, that's quite significant. I can see the variance and SPI. Then I'm gonna see column stereo reinforcement. Maybe I will go to activity progress trend. I can set up a filter and check column stereo reinforcement to see how much I am progressing. We can see that we have done some good work here. So just something like that, and maybe you can go cost variance breakdown. Yes, it's a third. Like it makes everything makes perfect sense here. Okay, so column stereo reinforcement. So that's if you don't know about it, that's the cost variance breakdown. So on the same data date, let's say I have cost variance of 100 grand, for example, negative. So that's the cost variance breakdown. Where am I losing the money? That's the first contributor, second, third, then fourth. So column stereo reinforcement ranks third. So it's quite critical and significant. Just it's one example. You might, but that's what I'm talking about, because static reporting will not allow you to do all of that, because you have like static inputs, and you just have to live with it. You have to review it, make a decision. It is not also practical to browse hundreds of pages back and forth to get or draw a conclusion. It's a nightmare. And yeah, that's why we have many problems in our projects, and that's why planning engineers don't offer the expected value. And I have talked about it in the past, and I'm not gonna go over other visualizations because it might be a separate topic for another day, but I wanted to focus on variance analysis and the qualitative assessment, because as I showed you, there are many visualizations and the chart types, but I wanted to dive deep into this chart type. So you can have the overall project, you can apply some filters, you can go back to the data date, you can hover over and see additional information, and you can see the updated indicators right away. I just wanted to show you an example on how you can be in control of your project. You control the project and not controlled by it, because most planning engineers are controlled by the project. They are in the reaction mode. They cannot initiate. They don't have time and energy, focus and clarity to initiate. They are overwhelmed with amount of data. They don't know where to start and what to do, but rather you should swim for insights. You should not drown in the data. You should swim for insight. And by swimming, it's like a skill you can learn. You can have effective charts in place, proper configuration setup, and go back and forth as necessary or as convenient to you to draw a conclusion and identify the root cause of the delay so you can help the project move forward. All right. So that's something I wanted to highlight quickly. And let's see if we have any questions. We have, so Ali also joined us from Iraq. Rami from Riyadh, Ijaz from Pakistan, hi. Sheikh from the UAE, Abdul Rahman is a project engineer based in Saudi. We have Ogibidor, Muhammad Abdin, Hatun from Riyadh, Sadham, hi. Hi, Emmanuel. So I appreciate everyone who has just joined. We have Kareem from the UAE, Faisal from Pakistan. Okay, so if you have just joined us, you can introduce yourself in the comments section. Today we demonstrated the variance analysis. So maybe if you joined us late, after the live, you can go to my profile and check under activity. You can see the live stream if you want to watch it from the beginning. And we talked about the variance analysis inside Power BI. Hi, Gul from Saudi. Hi, Jan. It's good to have you. Shahabuddin from the UAE. Yemen from Palestine. Hi, Ahmad Salam. Hi, hello, Scott. We have a question from Asghar. I want to do basic courses on P6. We have, if you go to my website, smartpmtraining.com, you will see we have a free Primavera course. You can check it out. Hi, Securullah from Qatar. From Asghar, the Power BI course. We have a comprehensive Power BI course. I also explain data analytics in it. So you can go to my website and check it out. I'm not going to talk too much about the course because not everyone is interested in the course. You can check it out. If you have any questions, you can come back to us and we will answer all your questions. Scott from the US, Azhar from Pakistan, Tomi from Algeria, Jan from Holland. We have Dempsey from Canada, Abdul Razak, hello. Sydney from Zimbabwe, and we have Chauvin from Nepal. It's really amazing how we can connect at the same time across the globe. It's really impressive. Muhammad from Pakistan. From Sheikh, are you using Power Query option with data from P6 to prepare Power BI reports or some other methods? Okay, if you are talking about Power Query, you have to use Power Query. There is no workaround. Power Query is the source of everything we are trying to do. It's how you're gonna format the data, and it's like the feeding module. Okay, so anyone should use Power Query. But I just wanted to highlight something because it's really a common mistake. Many planning engineers, when they try to, learn the Power BI, they start, the tutorials related to Power BI itself, the features, and they probably start with the Power Query. Okay, but that's really the wrong approach. Because you have really to learn first about data analytics principles, because you cannot capture data, because when you capture data from Primavera, you need to find a way to aggregate them, reconcile them. Okay, and it's not something you can just do by coincidence, or it's not something that you do by luck or hope. It's like a science. You need to organize your data in a way that will guarantee the best results. Okay, so what about your primary and the foreign keys? Data normalization, cardinality, cross-filter direction, snowflake schemas, which is the method, which is the method we use to process the data. So that's my point. So, and about Primavera connection, so there are two ways that because Power BI is not a project control tool. It's a data analytics processor. Primavera is a planning tool. Power BI is not. So there is no native integration between Primavera, Microsoft Project, or any other scheduling software with Power BI. There is no native integration. Forget about it. There is a native integration between Primavera and Excel. Okay, that's how you can import and export back and forth with Excel, right? So the first obvious solution is to use a third-party application like Excel, which has a native integration with both Primavera and Power BI. So it's the connector. The second option is ODBC, Open Database Connectivity. You connect to the database, not Primavera, because there is a huge difference, okay? Because in Primavera, you can view the user-friendly columns or fields. So you can add one column, which is called total float. Really nice and amazing. But in the database, in the back end, it is not called total float. So it has coded version. Okay. So it will look like something like that. So TOT underscore float underscore pros. Like it's really hard, in my opinion. It's if you are familiar with Primavera, it's really hard to spot the coded description and intuitively relate to what you know inside Primavera. It's really hard, by the way. So you must know what each description means. If you insist on using this method connecting to the database, you can search Google Primavera mapping and schemas. You will find a documentation published by Oracle. It has the field description inside Primavera, which we are all familiar with, total float, earned value, and the corresponding coded description inside the database. So, it takes a while before you become familiar with it. But if that's what you want, then go for it. Okay, Shahabuldin, I want to connect with you on some particular aspect of Power BI. I really don't know what you are trying, like what is your question, because you can write it here in the comments so I can answer it and the others will get the benefit as well from the answer. So if it's possible, you can write your question here. Hi, Abdullah from UAE, Abdurazak from Algeria. We have Devkota from Nepal. Abdullah, is there any method to connect the data? I have already answered that. Hello, Lakhdar from Algeria. We have also Tawkir from Saudi and Suviraj from Mauritius. From Sahil, I am fresher in Primavera, suggesting me to improve. If you are fresher, you can go to my website, smartpmtraining.com. We have a free Primavera course. The first tutorial will explain how you can download and install the latest version of Primavera for free without database configuration from Oracle website. So it's gonna, guide you step by step to start out your career. Okay, planning is really nice career. I'm not saying that it's better than everything else, because everyone contributes to the project success. But in planning, I really find it interesting because it's a high impact activity. It's like managing the projects and identifying the problems. There are also many areas in planning which makes it fascinating, like delay analysis, claims knowledge, contract knowledge, progress reporting, Power BI, Primavera, advanced Excel. Like there is so much going on, which makes it interesting. Another interesting part about planning, I'm just saying that in case you are maybe starting out. So another interesting part is there is no universal method on how to do the planning work. If you put 10 different planning engineers in a room, everyone will have his or her own method. So the sky is the limit. If you improve yourself, if you put in the work and you continually to upgrade your work, which you should do, by the way, because nobody is perfect and we continue to learn. Me myself, I'm still learning, by the way. I keep learning at least something new every day. So over time these skills will compound. You can develop effective systems and become more efficient. You can add more value. So it's really, there is a lot going on in planning. Muhammad from Pakistan, Sahil from India. I am trying to import several programs of works of several projects from Microsoft projects to Power BI using OData feed, but I don't really know like what is the issue. You said no success. Like, is there an error? Is there an error inside Microsoft project or an error inside Power BI itself? So we need more information to identify the issue. Sahil, I watched all your videos on YouTube. Thank you very much. I am glad that you found it helpful. From Abdullah, just for everyone benefit, you can connect the data by using the reporting tool in Primavera when you run it as, yes, I mean, if you want to use Excel as intermediate tool, as a connector, you can do that. But there are better ways, to be honest. Like, if you want to export, if you want to use the reporting part, you're going to have to export it in a standalone file. So I don't know how you do it, but I guess that you use a folder, like complete folder, as data source connection. So you connect it to a folder, and when you export the file to that folder, then it's going to be processed. I don't know if that's what you do, but I guess there are better ways. Hello, Kulufulu. Okay, so we don't have any more questions. So thank you all for joining, and I hope that the live was helpful to you. I am not forcing you to use Power BI, although I recommend the same, but I hope that you have an idea about variance analysis and how we can perform one in project control for maximum benefits. Okay, one question. One last question before we finish. From Tawkir, how to measure the project progress by man hours? It's a good question. So we have to assign man hours or labor units inside Primavera. typically we have to report the progress as per both cost and the man hours, because each one of them will serve different purposes. We need both actually, but if you are talking about man hours specifically, the man hours will be the weighting system for me. Okay, so if I have more man hours in one activity, it's gonna have, of course, more weight. Okay, so you know we can measure progress by many methods. Progress, I mean, like there are many chart types and indicators. So if I'm gonna talk about progress curve, for example, I'm gonna go to resources assignments, copy all data, and then follow the method on how to develop a progress curve. And by the way, on my YouTube channel, I have a complete step-by-step tutorial on how to develop progress curve from scratch. So check it out. You will know how to extract data from Primavera to generate progress curve, if that's what you want. For EVM or earned value, we can probably, it's better to talk about it in a different live, so we know how to capture the required data and perform progress monitoring using the man hours. From Sahil, I am facing problems while updating the project. Please explain something on it. I don't know the issue or the problem, so I can't talk about it. That's a good question, actually, Abdul Alim. Do we need to be more familiar with DAX formulas to do project control analysis? No, because like there are levels regarding DAX formulas. A beginner level, just to write a short code. There is intermediate and advanced. Like you can, if you are advanced user, you can write 15 maybe rows or lines worth of coding, if that's what you want. And if you want to do something advanced, you don't need the advanced level or intermediate. You need some basic level. I did not start this way. I started by trying to create everything inside DAX, maybe because I lacked the knowledge back then. And I wanted, because we see that, if you are advanced DAX developer, you're going to be, good Power BI user. But I don't think it's the case in project control. Maybe it's the case in the data analytics, or, if you work in some data analytics field. But in project control, over time, I refined my methods and I don't use DAX too much. I use DAX, but a little bit. So I have found ways to become more efficient, to use less DAX, because if you think about it, we are really lucky as planning engineers to use Power BI, because most of the inputs that you need, you can get it from Primavera right away. You just need to create the configurations. That's it. That's my opinion. From Abdullah, you will connect the Power BI to a folder where you will export the CSV files. Then after all, so as I said, if that's what you do, good for you. I was doing it a while ago, but I changed my methods because I realized that there is a high friction, in my model, because the more steps that you involve in your model and the configurations, the more friction that you will have, because if you have any problem at any point, for example, and it will probably happen, then you're going to spend more time, effort, and energy to identify the issue and to try to fix it. So I try to work with minimal inputs. So if I have a problem, I know where to go. It's a one sheet only. And I know where to go, for example. So that's my point. But if you have a folder, like if you have 2 years, like if the project has 2 years worth of updates, that's 24 files. That's really high friction. If you are starting out in your project, maybe you do not feel that, but I have been there. If you if you are happy with 4 or 5 files, it's gonna increase over time. So it's not really effective for larger projects or longer projects, because you're gonna have 24 files. If you click on data date, for example, or if you miss something, you really don't know where the issue comes from, which file is corrupted. You're gonna check 24 files. So think about it. Maybe it does well for you right now, but it's something to keep in mind. From Muhammad, what is the impact to our schedule when we didn't properly set the time period in calendar? You mean like updating the calendars? Like, I don't know what you mean by time period. Like, is it working hours or the calendar update itself? So calendars are very important because it can affect the overall outcome. Because if you miss one non-working day, for example, in a week, and if you have 100 weeks, for example, it's gonna compound, and it's gonna produce inaccurate results. So, and you also need to document your assumptions in the narrative report, especially weather, because weather is a sensitive topic. So you need to document your assumptions. Did you consider non-working days for the adverse weather, or you're gonna make it neutral, so you're not gonna assume anything, but you have to write that. You have to write your assumptions, because when you develop your schedule, you assume that the reviewer will eventually understand what you are doing or become familiar with your assumptions. So when I develop a schedule, I'm gonna put myself in the reviewer's shoe. So I'm gonna imagine myself reviewing the schedule for the first time. So I'm gonna document in assumptions. And by the way, if you are joining me right now, the day after tomorrow, which is Wednesday, 5th of July, we're gonna have a live about the narrative report. So I'm gonna for sure cover the calendars section because it's very important. So maybe you can join us and know more about this topic. Muhammad, do you have a complete cost control course? No. From Ilkin, what about if we use Google Sheets, not Excel for reports? If you want to do that because you wanna make it accessible to everyone, like for example, you have the same data source connection to many users, so they will have to talk to the same source, if that's what you want. But I think there are more efficient methods to do so. You can have it's better to share Excel on the network. I'm not really a big fan of on collaborating on the same file. You can give permissions and accesses, but of course, I assume that but if the all Power BI users are advanced or they know what they are doing, then that's fine, because it's really hard to rectify issues this way. Moreover, also in Power BI, there is no standard way on how to create a model. So everyone has his own perception. And by the way, what I'm doing is not something that you should follow. It's really up to you. Maybe you are comfortable using a different methodology, different data source connection. So everyone has a preference. And unless everyone else agrees on this strategy, it's going to cause a problem. And the Google Sheets also is not very straightforward. Abdullah, baseline workshop. Yeah, we can maybe talk about it sometime in future. Okay, so I don't have any more questions. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you enjoyed the session. And hopefully you can implement the same strategies about variance analysis in your project. You can continue to use Excel if you want, but you have an idea about the best practices of variance analysis right now. Okay, bye-bye.